Okay, while we're waiting for the updates on some of the computers for Unreal Engine, I'm going to go ahead and switch to the MetaHuman Creator and talk about that. If you want to follow along, you want to find the MetaHuman page that has launched the app. It's just search MetaHumans, and it's the Epic Games one. Launch that app, go to this page, change this to 5.2, and launch the MetaHuman Creator. You have to sign up for it. It might take a few minutes to do that. I think it's pretty fast process. I think they'll sign you up pretty quickly. But then once you are signed up and you're logged in and stuff, you can click this. And it's going to take however long it takes to let you in. So there are 5 people in front of me. Okay. Could be our class that's holding up the line. Who's able to get into the MetaHuman Creator so far? Okay.
And this will like draw and post it for us. You know, like if it looks like me, like not. No, this is made you and then like someone who has to have I was sending you her actual, or we just like bring out one of your friends, like you get them. That's you can do weird stuff, and you can like that. It's like very hard.
So in my other course, ADM 460, we are making ourselves into MetaHumans. We're using photogrammetry to scan our heads, and then we're bringing that into Maya to clean up, to smooth out, and then we brought it into the MetaHuman Creator. Actually, it's a plugin inside of Unreal, MetaHumans plugin to make that into a MetaHuman. And it looks, say 85% like the person. You get the profile. If you get a good scan from the photogrammetry, you get the profile, the nose, you get the cheekbones and everything, but the hair you don't get. So you have to use the MetaHuman hair, which is somewhat limited. And then you don't get your skin. You have to create a new skin from the MetaHuman skin. And so sometimes that can look like you, sometimes it looks too clean, it doesn't look quite right. But what really makes it look like you is all the asymmetries and unique things on your face. So like my ears are not the same, they're not symmetrical at all. So when I do the scan on my head, that actually comes in to some degree, and it makes it look more like me. But there are ways, people are figuring out ways of bringing over the texture maps from the head scans to the MetaHumans. And so that really takes it to like almost all the way up to where it looks like you. And we're going to try to do some of that later on in the semester. I'm going to try to see if I can get one of those pipelines working. Yeah.
I've finished updating the 5.2, but Epic Games is now asking me for an admin username and password to change the files on the computer.
Okay. So I could try to put mine in. I might have. I supposedly do have that. So let's see. want to allow this after the changes to the bylaws.
The fraud is sold away. I don't. You don't. I don't do. But you can carry the check, right? I saw that.
Yeah, it didn't take.
Yeah.
Do you think, no, do you think I should put in the local domain like we tried that other?
Shouldn't have to, but you can try, Wolf Tech. Backslash menu UTID. And you just have to see that your account will.
Wolf Tech and then my username?
Wolf Tech backslash. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like so smart.
Does capitalization matter?
Not for the username.
What about the Wolf Tech?
No. Yeah, I can put my credentials in, I have no way of doing it.
Let's see.
Well, yeah, you can see that's why it's. Very. Too many. Thinking, I could thought of this. But I can't probably put the city.
No, that didn't take.
It's a species.
Would there need to be a backslash in front of the Wolf Tech?
No, it should have worked if, I mean, it should have worked without any other stuff. County, I don't know why there's not, I thought I said about that, was, that could, if you buy my convention. That means. I'll have to go very through the same things.
You got it to work on his machine?
No, I
think the same thing. Okay.
I just didn't know. So everybody would say about, just trying to figure it out. You want me to go ahead and do that, I think, for the email, it's gonna be a little different. I'm not. This one's gonna be the rest of the top. If that's what you need, we can set that.
Okay, so in that, so you see the part classes.
Actually, one that has, they all,
Yeah, they don't get complex.
It did, they're too good, we can see out there,
Yeah, so.
the contact solution gets into bigger.
Yeah,
It's a bigger speed on it.
but like, this is key role of the executive. This is the game, this is the. And it's in our form where they not, it's really good, it's like, it's really really selective of pay for the field of that. It was that. This one. So.
Oh, this also came up with Lee and I was trying to do this with my login. Do I put admin dot? No.
Yeah, we have to, I'm gonna go this way.
This is where it is, this is where it is.
Can we try it on one to see if that would even work?
Oh, I'm sure it would. Go ahead and put your box.
No, there was,
But I was saying that it's my best.
I don't think the ones that you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like.
Yeah, why do you want to do that? No, that's what I'm thinking.
I switched the name. It was on base, the new share.
Specific.
So,
It's probably, yeah.
Okay, so it looks like I'm into the MetaHuman creator. What you're seeing here is actually my MetaHumans that I've already customized. I'm in the My MetaHumans area. If I go to create, that's where I'll see all of the standard MetaHumans for this this particular level of Unreal Engine. So
The worst when I put my credentials.
it does, okay.
So, well, I think the recognition is
There's no way you can
not for.
change mine to work.
It seems like it's not, you can look at, oh, it's not working.
Okay.
But right now, the quick fix would be. If that's what you want me to do, I can do that.
If you can, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, it's-
Then it would be done in this lab, right? 5.6.
Yeah, I have to figure out how to do the first thing.
Yeah,
But if you,
but it looks like it's doing it automatically.
and that's what.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would make it, if you want to have all these spirits in there. Put, you know, put that on stage where I can just go ahead.
okay,
Go on, I can go through.
okay, so if would it make sense to do it now or schedule a time in like a half an hour when we take a break or something like that?
I mean, you want to.
Um,
Right now, it's, you want to, if you have a reason, we can go ahead.
yeah, why don't we schedule, like, yeah, it'll take me 15-20 minutes to talk about this, so if we could schedule it like at 11:30 or 11.
Fine, I'm sure, don't get me, I'm listening.
Okay,
Distracted with something.
okay, and then we'll just take a break and you can,
Well, here's this.
we'll set it up so that it's on the screen and then you can just go through it. Okay, that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna talk really quickly about this for about 15-20 minutes. Then we're gonna take 10 minutes to make sure that everybody has up on their screen the thing that requires admin privileges. And Scott can come in and just go do it really quick while we take a 10-15 minute break. So MetaHumans. You want to choose one that you think is somewhat like the character that you want to do. And you have a lot of different choices here of different kinds of characters. It doesn't necessarily have to look like you, it just fit whatever you want your character for your game to be, the player character. Okay, so I was talking about doing something with a guy that had a big beard and you know, Kurt Russell. And I think I found one here that somewhat fit the bill. Didn't have long hair, but had a big beard. And I chose that one. See if I can find it. There it is. Erno. So I chose Erno. And so as soon as Erno comes up, I'm gonna click on create selected, and that's gonna take me into the MetaHuman creator, and it's gonna run this idle animation on it. So the idle animation, if you use your wheel on your mouse, you can zoom out a little bit. You can use your right mouse button to turn and look at it from different angles. And then if you hold the L key down, you can change the lighting just by moving the cursor. So if you want to light it more full on front face, or if you want to see some little more dramatic lighting, probably you don't want to do that if you're creating a face. You want it probably more front on. And then what you're going to want to do to edit this face is stop the idle animation. Click the stop button so it's straight on to you. And then you're going to go into from the top down here to change things on this. So you might go to blend first and pull in other faces to blend between them. So for instance, maybe if I want this to look more like Kurt Russell, I'd probably bring up a picture of Kurt Russell. And incidentally, why don't we do that? Why don't we bring up a little picture here? So actually, you got to be careful with this MetaHuman animator. If I go away from it, it might kick me out. Okay, so this is what Kurt Russell looks like. I can look at his nose and his face and what color his eyes are and kind of figure out what I might want there and say, okay, well, maybe I want a somewhat smaller nose, or maybe I want, to pull in a few other faces that I could blend between here to get the kind of face that I would want. And you could mix between male, female, whatever you want, whatever you think has a nose or something like you want. And then what happens is if I click over here, and you can put as many as 6 in there. And when I go to the first blend tool here, which is like a little face, it gives me little dots on the face that allow me to change, like the eyes, for instance. So when I click on this, it shows me the 3 points, the 3 different eyes here. And I can bring this dot towards the 3 places on this circle, and it changes the eyes to be more like whatever those eyes are. So if I felt like his eyes were too small or they're not the right shape, I could choose something else for the eyes, and anywhere in between too. I could go like in between 2 of them, or I could go closer to the center, which is actually the original one. So this is actually the nose now. And, I can just eyeball it and decide what looks like a good nose to me. Same thing with the forehead. I can move it around and see the forehead moving to different shapes and decide what looks good. There's one for the ears over here. Do I want bigger ears, smaller ears, more close to the head ears, chin? So these are kind of big changes, like for that entire area of the face. And then you have other ones here which are finer adjustments. So the next tool down is a sculpt tool, which will allow me to click on an ear and pull it and move it in a much more detailed way. And here's where you might want to turn off. Where is it? There's a way to turn off the mirroring. Oh, here it is. It's right there. So this is a symmetry button. So everything I do on one side is doing it on the other. But if I don't want the ears to be symmetrical, then I can go and turn that off and change it. And actually, as soon as I do that, it looks, to my eye, a little more realistic. Most people, unless they're models, do not have symmetrical faces. It's just not a thing. That's why models are models, because there's features are symmetrical, a lot of them. So you don't have, you don't
Only the sculpt and I don't have the symmetry.
only, you don't have this button right here? Huh. Okay. Try to do some sculpting first. So I definitely suggest turning that off, because that will allow you to put some of those asymmetries in there. So I'm opening his one eye a little bit, or we can. You got to be careful. If you pull something too far, you might actually make it weird. Generally, they don't get too weird because these are based on a database of real head scans, and so it's kind of limiting you to what is in the real world. But at the same time, if you hit idle and he starts animating and his eyes look weird, then that means I pulled something too far. So you're gonna check it with the animation. It might look good when he's standing still, but when it's animating, it might actually not look good. So these little points are kind of hard to see. You kind of have to go around and find them on the face. Like this one's for bringing the cheekbones in a little bit. For that one, I probably would want symmetry on, because, you know, both cheekbones. Okay. Now, if you turn symmetry back on, it actually changes what you had previously moved. So, since that's the case, I'm going to do it manually on both sides to give him a little thinner face. Skin, you can go in and or there was another blend thing there too. It's called Move. It's got little lines. And again, it's got even more control over, like, how that eyebrow is going to go in its default state. Maybe this guy has his mouth down a little bit in his default state. Okay. The skin, you can change the color of the skin. If you want to, you can go in to the freckles and increase the strength of those freckles. For my guy, he's going to be in the Arctic, so he probably has red on his cheeks and nose and stuff because, you know, that's what happens when you're out in the super cold wind and stuff. So I would probably go over to the accents part here where you can adjust redness and increase the redness on his cheeks and his nose and maybe the forehead too. Make it look like this is someone who's out in the cold a lot. Again, it makes it look more realistic, the more sort of imperfections you put on it. You can change lightness or saturation in different areas of the face. You can add more freckles or deepen the tone of those, the density of them as well. The texture of the skin, that's a big one. It goes from young to old, left to right. So this is where you actually, when you create yourself with a metahuman, this is what's going to make it either look like you or not. So maybe this guy, if he's like out in the cold a lot, maybe he has more wrinkles on his face. And this slider will make pretty big changes. So you have to kind of be careful that you want something like that. But I think I'll use this one. It's got like a much bigger wrinkle down the middle of his forehead. So moving on. I'll set the color of his eyes. I think his eyes actually should be like gray or blue. And teeth is really weird. You can change how those teeth look. You know, do you want them to have perfect teeth or, you know, it's a pretty weird effect when you slide this slider. And makeup, you can put all kinds of makeup and stuff on there. This guy's starting to look like a Viking. You can put makeup on the eyes, blush, lips, foundation, all of that. Yeah, your hair, I wanted longer hair for this guy, so I'm gonna go find something that's kind of maybe like that. Oh, crash. It's supposed to save automatically. So we'll see if it's saved or not. Or if I have to start over. Actually, I already have this character kind of thing. So. I could start from that one if I think this one was looking better though. So yeah, you're gonna choose some hair, you can choose some facial hair as well. If you're doing a male character or whatever. And then you're gonna have to choose a body type and some clothes. And the body types are really limited. There's really only 3 heights and 3 male body types and 3 female body types. That's it. Really limited. This doesn't have to be your final character. Of course, you can go back and keep working on this and do something different if you want to. You can do colored hair too, by the way, in the hair settings. When you get to the hair part, there is something for details and things like that that you can go in and you can make green hair, purple hair, whatever you want. You can put some gray hair in there. There's like something for a salt and pepper look. Okay, so I'm gonna go into Unreal Engine to see if my character's there or not inside a bridge or if I lost it. Actually, you know what? I won't do that. So if I lost it because it crashed on me, what I could have done was I could have, when I started to get the character partially done, I could have clicked on the name of the character or actually where it says my metahumans at the top left. And it would take me back to my list of metahumans and it would have automatically saved it. So I don't usually have a problem with it crashing, but it does occasionally do that. And if I lose the whole thing, it doesn't take that long to make it again, but I could have done that to prevent that from losing it. So I guess everybody's been kind of working on it a little bit. You may want to go ahead. It's almost 20 after. In the next couple of minutes, go ahead and click on the upper left of the interface where it says My Metahumans, and it will take you to your list of metahumans and save your metahumans into it. And you should see it there in your list under My Metahumans. And when you're ready to go work on it some more, you just click edit, select it, and it'll take you back to it. So it would be a good idea for you to go ahead and do that. Actually, it saved mine. There it is. So mine's still there. And I do kind of like this one better than the other one, which I called Snake. But let's just go back in here. So I was about to put some hair on him. I want the long haired look. Maybe something like that. Now the hair is going to look good no matter what you do, pretty much, because you have a limited hairstyles choices, and but you can go into details on that hair. And like I said, you can put some salt and pepper in it. You can put some roughness to make it look maybe a little bit less nice. Oh, here's where you can put highlights. So if you go into the hair ombre details, you can find the highlights button. And if you turn it on, then I think you can go in there and change that to enable hair dye. And that will let you go and actually choose a color. So let me see if I can give this guy some. Oh, that's on the highlights. So maybe I don't have enough highlights. Oh, there it is. It's just really subtle. Yeah, if I pull the melanin down, then you can really see it. Now he's got pretty pink hair. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure that you save your metahumans, and we want to get up on your screen the notice that says you need admin to load 5.2.1. I'm gonna give my guy combat boots. So he's gonna be out in the snow. All right, so I'll go back to my metahumans. So that's saved. So we'll take a break in 5 minutes or so. I like this one better than the first one I did. The first one I did, actually, I do like some of the redness on his face, but he doesn't look as old and weather beaten as this guy. So I'm gonna go with a new one. So you're gonna need a metahuman to bring in as your player character, and we're gonna replace the default mannequin with this today. And you can see some of the ones that I've done of myself with the scans. So these are the ones, recent ones that were done. All right, make sure that you have your admin thing up on your screen. We're gonna take a break in a few minutes. And get this all done today so that we'll have it for the rest of the semester. You have to click the update button for on 5.2 if you wanted to put in the 5.2.1. It's gonna have to download it. It's gonna take some time. So if you haven't done that already, make sure that you do that so that we can get that updated. Library. I noticed to actually, it doesn't say update on this, so just try one. Okay. All right, well, if it doesn't come up as an update, then I'm not sure how you can force it to update other than to download it. We don't want to do that. So just leave it at 5.2 if it's not coming up. If it's not automatically coming up.
And well, once you launch the 5.0, it'll start updating automatically.
Well, his isn't.
So,
It's this is already launched, I think, I don't think it's gonna come up on the screen. Maybe next time you want it. It didn't come up on yours? Oh, it is. Yours is updated. Okay. Okay. I don't know why some of them are updating and other ones are not. That's right. Yeah. Everybody needs to get out of Metahumans right now because, you don't always have an administrator in the room and we want to take advantage of that. So it's a, go to your engine. And, close out here for regular. Yeah, well, just close this. Then it will come down. Now it's the library. Yeah, we're trying to get them to because it's kind of happening automatically, or like it happened. It wasn't unless you launched again. And if that happens, and we don't have an administrator to put in the password, it's just not going to use the machine. No, not really. I don't think so. I don't think it's. We're not actually using on that. We're just using the I don't think we use that. The button. I mean, what's so this is my.
Yeah, and that was great, actually. I think I'm getting. Oh, yeah, I like it. I like yeah, I don't.
Why is it launch 5.2?
So I'm gonna show you guys something because there's another thing that takes some time. And if you're already in 5.2.1, if you can launch your program, then we can do it, and it might take time because we got to download these metahumans in order to put them into the scene. And sometimes that takes some time. So I want to show you how to do that. So when you get to the point that you're going to actually launch Unreal Engine, as I said, you want to go to the games. When this screen comes up, you go to games, third person, and turn on starter content. You're also going to need to tell it where to go, where to save the project file. And I would create a folder in your username or on the desktop. Are the desktops wiped in here when they log out? So I would do it on the desktop, create a class folder so you can put your project in there. So I've got a class folder called Unreal Demos that I'm saving it into. You click this little button here and you can choose the pathway to something on your desktop or wherever you want to save this. You just want to be able to find it, okay? Because you're going to want to back this up eventually. And then the other thing is you give the project a name, and let's just call this let's call it creative coding. Project 2. And it's probably too long of a name. That's something with Unreal Engine. It doesn't let you have long names. So I'm just going to do try PRJ2, and that's fine. Project 2, and I'll hit create. So this is going to go through the whole process of creating folders with more folders in it. It's like a Unreal Engine project is not like one file. It's like 1,000 files inside of a bunch of folders. So these are complex software, so they don't have one file. And it's going to end up coming up like this in the third person template. Yeah. It says there's no space for creating a folder. Oh, no, the project name cannot have a space, but it doesn't have a space. Oh, you have a space on your folder. Your folder in the space. So something you guys should know. Do not put spaces in your names, even on your folders that you're going to put your project in. Most traditional CS type of coding doesn't have spaces in the names ever. It'll cause an error in your code, and it will also cause these programs to have problems. A lot of the programs that you use, like Adobe and stuff, they allow you to put spaces in names, but then they put something in that when the computer reads it. There's no spaces in names for computers. So you have to think like a computer and remove the spaces. So when I make a name, I always put a capital letter at the beginning. Every new word, I put a capital letter, and then I just remove all the spaces. I just put everything together. If I really want to make it clear, I put an underscore in between the two words. Yeah, so just that's just the thing that you have to think about when you're starting to do technical stuff, any kind of coding. So inside of here, this is where I wanted to get to so that I can import the metahuman. And it's going to take some time because they're big files, and you have to go from the cloud. So this is one of the bottlenecks. And I wanted to get you guys started importing that. So you're going to do that inside of Unreal Engine at the top where it says Window. And you want to go down and find Quixel Bridge. So Quixel Bridge is where the metahumans are. And so you gotta open that inside of the project file. And when you do that, it's probably going to be a floating window. It docks mine because that's what I do all the time, so it remembers that. But I'm going to pull this out. It should just be like a floating window, and you just maximize it. And you might have to log in the upper right. it's logged me in automatically because I'm already logged into Epic Games and it logged me in with my Epic Games account. But if it doesn't have your email up here, then that means you're not logged in. You need to log in with your Epic Games account. Use your Epic Games account login to do that. And what you should see on the left is a MetaHuman section. And when you click on it, there will come up a My Metahumans. If you're logged in, you will get a My Metahumans. And this is where you're going to download your MetaHuman into your scene. So here they are. You can see the little green checkbox next to these. That means I already downloaded it. See, it's already downloaded on mine. The previous one, the new one that I made doesn't have a checkbox, so it's not downloaded. If I want to download that one, then I need to select it and hit the download button in the lower right. Now, before you do that, make sure it's on medium quality. Do not use high quality. It'll take forever if you use high quality. That's like a 8K or something like that. You want to use medium quality. It's still going to take a while. You could use low quality, but I think we want these to look pretty good, so try medium quality. And when you click on that, that thing is going to clear after a few seconds. After it generates, it's going to clear and you're going to see a little progress thing go around. The thing is, it's downloading it from the cloud. And if you go away from this screen, it might kick you out. And you might have to start it all over. So it's sometimes better just to sit here and wait for it. See, mine started, it's about on a clock that's like 2 o'clock, right? So anybody else? Not good? Anybody else need their permission done? We've got one over here. Just raise your hand.
If I got to do this twice, so. You think we're on the right spot?
Okay, so I'm going to use my older ones so that I don't have to wait for the download and I can talk about a few things while you're waiting for your download. You don't need to follow this part. I just want to talk about some things in the Unreal Engine interface and blueprints in general. And then once we get the things downloaded, we're going to put the MetaHuman into the scene. So to begin with, I'm going to close Bridge here. And I want to go back to my main Unreal Engine interface. So what I want to do here is talk a little bit about this interface. You've got your 3D view up here. This is also your it's your game view if you hit play on the top of this view. So there's a little green play button. And when you click that, you're running the game engine. So if I click that now, I'm going to, and I click into the 3D view to activate it. I can then look around with the camera and I can use my WASD keys to move this character around and jump and go up here and move through this little arena that they have. So this is playing the game, and to stop it, you can either hit the red stop button or hit escape. I just usually hit escape. And this is set up as sort of the default template in this file that you launch the default template to the third person character. And that's what this is. It's a third person character, which you can see from a camera that's slightly behind it. And this symbol right here that we kind of zoomed in when we hit play, if I hit escape immediately, you'll see that's right in front of me. That is the player start. That's telling it where the player is going to start. If you click on that in the 3D view here, you actually see the little pill shape that is the character controller collision box, or it's not a box, it's like a pill shape. Yeah. And that is telling it where to sit on the ground, and when it jumps up and comes down, it's using that for the collisions of this player character. And then it's bringing up the actual model and animations that are making it move based on whatever keys you're pushing. We're going to look at that, how those controls are working. But what we're going to do with the metahumans is when you bring the metahuman in, there's going to be a metahuman folder over here that gets created. I don't seem to have one, so that tells me that it actually did not bring it in. So let me just try and click that again, because I want to make sure that I do get that. So if you don't, when you first come in here, there is not going to be any metahumans folder. There's not going to be any Megascan stuff. You have to first download something to get that. So I'm just going to go back again, because I want to make sure that's in here. And go to my metahumans. And see if that is still downloaded. Okay, it says it's downloaded. Let's try adding it again. No, I don't think it took last time. You're going to see all of this stuff when you actually do it, when you click the add button. That time I'm pretty sure it took, because I saw it processing it. And if I close bridge again, or instead of closing bridge, I'm just going to grab bridge and I'm going to dock it right here next to my project settings. So you can grab the name of any of these tabs and you can pull it out, or you can, like, I can pull bridge back out and I can pull it back over here and it'll dock it again. If you want to keep something open to get to it again, then you dock it. And if I go, I can just click on these tabs to go to different parts. I have project settings that it always comes open for me. I think it's just permanently docked. I don't know if that happened because I did it initially and then it just remembered it, or if that's going to come up the same way for you. But a lot of this stuff you're going to find up here. project settings is actually right here. And the first time you do it, it might come up as a floating window that you can dock up here. It's kind of nice to do that. All right, so now I can see I have a Metahumans folder there. So it did take that time. And it's going to take a while for the Metahuman shaders to actually be imported. So I'll just leave that alone for right now. But we're going to use this scene to get started. And I wanted to mention just a couple of things about the interface here. So to move around in the 3D view, you're going to use your left mouse button. You can use your right mouse button. You can frame things, like if I select this object over here and I hit F, it will frame it. It's F on the keyboard. And then you can sort of orbit around. You can also hold your right mouse button down and use the WASD keys and also E to go up if you want to look from above, and Q to go back down. And forward with W, backwards with S, side to side with A and D. And these are standard type of controls that we had in Fortnite as well for moving characters around. And it's the same thing when I'm actually running around with the character. I'm using the WASD keys. So that's a nice thing. You can also hold the Alt key down and you can zoom, do a sort of fine zoom with your right mouse button. With your left mouse button, you can orbit around a single point. Middle and left also kind of do a little bit of a finer zoom, and also you can use your wheel. So those are the different ways to move around. What you have here is kind of a pre-made arena with some lighting that you can see over here with these little gizmos. If you want to hide these, you can hit the G key and it hides all of those sort of manipulators and gizmos. Everything is going to be in your content folder. So you have your 3D view and your game view when you hit play. Below that, you have your content browser, which may actually be collapsed. So normally, the content browser is collapsed, but I like to have it always available to me here. And there is a little button that when you open it by putting your cursor down at the bottom, you can actually dock that. It says dock. Let me see if I can find that here. Let me just grab it out. So if I grab that out, you can see that there's a content drawer here. If I open that up, there's a dock-in layout there. And that's what I prefer to use. So I'm going to just dock that in the layout again. I'll close this one. Oh, okay. Now we'll just kind of stick it back down there again. There we go. On the right-hand side, you have your outliner and your details. Details, if you have an object selected, like I have this ramp selected, it's going to tell me things about that particular game object. It'll tell me what the static mesh for it is, what the material is on it, where it is in 3D space under the transforms. So location, rotation, scale settings. If it has no parent, it's going to be, these are going to be global numbers based on the center of the world. If it has a parent, it's going to be based on wherever the parent is. you can find things like I could find this static mesh. The static mesh is the model. I could find that by clicking on this folder here. It's browse to where it is, or the material. I could find the material for this by clicking on it, and it will take me to where that material is. So there's frequently you're going to have to find stuff. We'll be looking for things like that. But everything is mainly in your content folder. The content folder is where you put your game objects that you want to bring into this scene. Also where you save the scenes and where you import stuff too. So you're going to create folders in here to organize stuff. You don't want to just stick a bunch of stuff in content. There are some folders here because this is coming in from the from Quixel Bridge, as well as from the template that you have here. So there's like third person stuff here. And some of the character stuff is coming from that as well. The mannequin that we saw when it comes up and you run around, it's a mannequin. There's a couple of different kinds of mannequins. We want to replace that mannequin with our metahuman for our game. So that's what we're going to do today. And then also you're going to create, probably the first thing you'll do is right click and create a new folder and make a scenes folder. Sometimes people call them maps. I personally prefer scenes. I usually make a scenes folder to save my project in. So if I go up to File in the top left and I do Save Current Level As, I'm going to choose the scenes folder to save my levels in. And from then on, it's going to save my levels in that scenes folder whenever I save. I just need to give it a name. So we'll just call this let's call it Metahuman Start. And I usually put a 1 at the end of my names. Again, I don't make sure it's a 1 and not a bracket. Don't put a space in your name. So there's no spaces here. That's not a space. It's Metahuman, capital M, then start, and then 1, no spaces. And if I really wanted to, you know, put what looks like a space, I would put an underscore in there. But I usually just leave that out and save it. So if I look in that scenes folder, it's going to have a Metahuman Start 1 level in there. And if I do more levels or make big changes to my scenes, I might save a different one. Now I can just do Save All or click this little floppy disk icon whenever I want to save. Now, if I'm going to make a blueprint, I might want a blueprints folder for custom blueprints. Also in my contents, I'll go ahead and do that. I'll right click and make a new folder, and let's just call it blueprints. Or just BPs. BP is often just used. And I'll hit enter on that. And then if I want to create a blueprint, just to sort of show you what blueprints are, I can right click and choose a blueprint class. I can create a blueprint class. And a blueprint is how you do the coding in Unreal Engine. And it's a graphical coding interface. when you create a blueprint, you tell it what type of blueprint it is, like what kind of game object is this going to be. And it tells you if you hover over these, what they are. An actor is an object that can be placed or spawned in the world, while a pawn is something that can be possessed. So an actor could be anything, could be a tree or a piece of grass or a rock, where a pawn is going to be, could be a vehicle or characters are actually the next one. That's something that you will actually have like an NPC with a skeleton on it. And then a player controller is actually for your player character. And it's got even more stuff on it. And then there's a game mode base, and that's for like the game level type of controls. So all of these things, they're kind of going sort of up in scale from very basic game object to something that you have a lot of control over, and then the game itself. So if I create an actor one, for instance, and just call this, let's just call this BP. Usually put blueprints, BP at the beginning, BP underscore, and then let's just call this intro. And if I double click it, it's going to open up a window that, again, I could dock it if I want to, depending on whether I want to see the game while I'm working in here. If I don't, then I could just dock it up here like I did next to my bridge. And you have different views in this. This is the viewport view, which there's nothing really in here. This is just sort of position an object if I want to bring in some kind of static mesh for this. It's telling me where the center of that world is. But I could go and look at the construction graph, which is what sort of sets up the start. It's even before the start of the game. It's setting up whatever this is. And then the event graph, which is actually things that happen in the game. So like they give you a few in here, like a event begin play, but these are not really doing anything right now. And I can just select them and delete them. But if I right click in this empty area, I can type in event and it gives me those things. I can create them manually as well. And so if I do an event begin play, for instance, this is the events always start in red and they don't have any inputs. And they're used in this case to right at the start of the game. Whatever this thing is going to do, when you hit play, it's going to call this. And so if you pull out of this, the output of this, it's like a little pin which you left drag out of. And if you let go, it's going to give you sort of a context sensitive list of things that could be connected to this particular output. And it's going to be a big list. There's going to be all kinds of stuff in here with actors. And these are all functions. And functions are bits of code that will run to do a particular thing. And some of them are going to be for setting certain things in the game. And some of them are for getting things, information or data in the game. There's a lot of different stuff in here. But there's a search at the top. And if I type in print, I can choose a function which is for printing a string. And if you want to align these things, because they can get pretty complicated and some of these don't look very good when they're not aligned, you can just right click it, highlight them, right click it, and choose straighten connections under alignment, and it'll straighten it out. And this is like the classic hello world type of thing. I can type in hello space world, which if you've taken a programming class in computer science, I don't know if they still do that, but they used to do this, that you'll do hello world as your first thing. And it's giving you some feedback. It's giving you some text feedback. Games give you a lot more feedback, but that's a place to start. Where you really use print strings is you put them in your code sometimes to make it clear that it's gotten to that point in the code. It's like a debug measure. And so you might say, this worked or something like that, so that you know that it actually got to that point in the code. But this one, if we compile this, so whenever you do stuff over here, you're going to need to click compile on the left, and hopefully you'll get the green check, which means everything is good, and you don't get any red down here in your compiler result, which is an error. If everything's good, then you can test it out, and there's another green button here that you can test it out. But before I do that, I'm going to go back to my MetaHuman start, and I'm going to pull this into my world, so it's in my scene. And then I'll go back here, and we can test it right here. So if I click that, I should see hello world in the upper left corner for like 2 seconds, and then it's going to disappear, because if I open this up, it's setting the duration to 2 seconds. So if I put 5 in there or something like that, then we will see it there for 5 seconds. It'll be up longer. So this is working, and everything's good with that. But these are going to get much more complicated. There's going to be a lot more going on with this, and we can do our logics that we were talking about in Fortnite, but we would do them with this, and making this sort of left to right flow of nodes that are connected together like this. And so if I move this to the right here, we talked about conditionals, doing an if else type of statement. And in here, that's going to be something called a branch. So I right clicked on the empty area, which brings me up my list of stuff, and I type in branch, and I get flow control branch, and I can put a branch node in here. This is how you would do a condition and a true false coming out of it. So this has an input. If you want to delete a connection, hover over it and hold Alt down and click on it. And we can take this into the branch node instead. And then we can take the true out to this. Excuse me. Out to this print string. Okay, so we could do 2 different print strings here. We could do duplicate this. So I'll right click it. You can copy and paste and duplicate things. So I'm gonna duplicate this print, and let's call this one let's see, let's say we're doing an opening of a door. So this is going to be door open, and this one down here will be door closed. And we'll go false to door closed. And we can go ahead and collapse these. Make it a little bit more manageable. And we can also select these two, and we can hit the C key for writing a comment. So you didn't really have comments in Fortnite, really. I mean, you have devices, but comments are like important for coding because it's kind of abstract and it's hard to see immediately what things are doing sometimes. So a comment sort of tells you what that part of the code is doing. And in this case, let's say this is just, we just named this door control or something like that. And you can put spaces in there. It's comment, it's just normal text. And then you can take something like some variables that would be coming into this condition and test them for something. So if I go to my blueprint, or I'm actually on, you can be on components or my blueprint. I'm on my blueprint. There are variables down here which I can create, and I'll just click on the plus sign here and create one. Let's just call this need slurp fishes. So this variable is to contain how many slurp fishes are needed to open a door, and it's going to be of type integer. So you can make these all these different types. We'll talk about the details of some of these more complicated ones later, like vectors and transforms, which are multiple numbers. But let's just say we want an integer here. And we'll right-click this and duplicate it. And we'll call this second one player slurp fishes. And we'll go ahead and pull these out into the scene. And we're going to get whatever the number is going to be for this one and also for the player one. Okay, so if I compile that, it's going to give me over in the right details for each one of these, like how many we have. And later on, it will pick things up and put them in the variable, but now we're just going to put a number in there. So let's say we have 3 slurp fishes and we need 5 slurp fishes. And so we have our 2 numbers there. They're plugged in our details, and we need to create some kind of test for that. So let's just do an equals. I'll just hit equal on the keyboard, and we'll do a greater than or equal to. So if we get 5 or greater, we have enough slurp fishes to open the door. That's the logic that we had in our previous thing. So if you look at this, it says this greater equal node is okay. So let's just plug it in. It's not really giving me a whole lot of information there. Now it is. So returns true if A is greater than or equal to B. So in this case, let me think of the logic here. If A is greater than or equal to B. Okay, we need to swap these. Yeah. So let's let's just break that connection. And let's move these a little bit here. And we'll plug them in again. Okay, and then this whole thing will move a little bit to the left here. And we'll plug that into the condition. Okay, so let's compile that. This should be doing that. We have 3 slurp fishes. We need 5, so it should bring up door closed. If I run this, let's go ahead and play it and see. And it says door closed. Okay, so let's say we go back and we try it again with 5, or let's say put 6 greater than, and compile it and hit play, and it should say door open, which it does. So the logic's working there. And this is what that logic looks like in a blueprint. So if we were coding this, it would look different. We would have if else statements, but it would be the same kind of logic. And this is how we're going to be building some of that interaction that we had in the last game into this game engine. Okay, so we'll go ahead and save that. And I want to move on now to the Metahumans. Hopefully your Metahumans are downloaded. So let's go back to our Metahumans. And I want to set this up so that my snake metahuman here, if I open up my metahumans folder, there'll be the name of your metahuman. There'll be a common folder, which you want to ignore that one. That's sort of like a base mesh that all metahumans use, what they call metahuman DNA. But the one with your character's name is where your blueprint class for your metahuman is. And you may not see anything but the sort of the default icon on that. You want to open that up because it might take some time for it to load the shaders for that. And when you double click it, it might actually kind of freeze a little bit. I should have saved before I did that, but I'm going to go ahead and enable missing when these things come up. Enable missing, enable missing, enable missing. And then it's going to ask to restart. So you know what? I'm gonna save all right now before I restart. And because I've had it not come back before. And I'm just going to do restart now. So the reason it hangs is because there's all these shaders on these metahumans. That's what makes them look so good. And it takes a while for Unreal Engine to load up all those shaders. When I'm saying a lot of shaders, I mean like hundreds, if not 1,000 shaders. It's like a lot. Okay, when it comes back, it might say there was a couple editors open. You can open those back up if you want to. I'm just going to leave those closed. So I'm going to try to open up BP Snake again, and hopefully it will actually open this time. Okay, it opened this time. And you can see it's preparing shaders. That's what's taken so long. So I'm gonna I'm back in my, it's sort of automatically docked it if it didn't go ahead and dock it in the top, next to bridge. And I'm gonna go and look at the viewport first. And it should show you like a half shaded metahuman. And it might pop up with the shading on, but you might notice that your hair is gone. And if you zoom in, the hair will probably show up, but if you zoom out a little bit, the hair disappears. That's called the LODs, the levels of detail. To keep that from happening in your game, we're going to turn it to force what's called LOD 0, which is the highest level of detail. The hair only shows up in LOD 0 and 1. So if the character gets far away from your camera, which the third person character is a little bit away from the camera, the hair will disappear because it goes to LOD 2 or something like that. So what you want to do is go to the components on the left. Do what? To get it open? If it's not open, like mine is open and docked here, double click it again. If it is open, then make sure you're on viewport and not in event graph. And then make sure that you have components selected on the left and go down to LOD sync, which is the bottom, past the name of your character and the body and the legs and everything. At the very end, it says LOD sync. Click on that, go to the right where it's got the details and set forced LOD, which is about a quarter of the way down. Set forced LOD, which is -1 to 0, and hit enter. And your hair will come back. And then compile it and save it. So hit compile and then hit the little floppy disk to save it. So now we've forced it into the highest level of detail. And when we bring it into our scene, it'll have the hair. All right, I'm going to do a couple of other things before I get started. What I want to do here is when I hit the play button over in the third person, I just switched to third person map. If I hit play, what I see is my my mannequin, third person mannequin, where my player start is, and I can make that move by hitting my keys. I'm going to hit escape. I want to replace that with this metahuman so I can run around as my metahuman. But the way I'm going to do that is I have to connect these at the blueprint level. So to do this, you need to also, in addition to having the BP of your metahuman open, you need to go and find the third person folder in your content area, down in your content browser, find third person, and double click into blueprints, and you'll see 2 blueprints there. The BP third person character and the BP third person game mode. We want to open both of those. So the BP third person character first, I'm going to double click it. And if it's just floating like what I have here, I'm going to dock it next to my metahumans blueprint. And then I'm going to go back to my third person map again, and I'm going to double click BP third person game mode. And it's either going to dock itself because it's figured out that I want to dock things, or it's going to be floating and you got to dock it. So we're going to use both of these blueprints. If you go to the BP third person character blueprint and you click on viewport, you will see the mannequin there. Now I want to go back to my metahuman blueprint, and I'm in viewport. And the first thing I want to notice is that this has in the upper right the parent class is actor. Okay. If you go to the third person character blueprint, you'll see the parent class is character. Okay, then go back to the metahuman, BP, whatever the name of your metahuman is. It says actor. We want to change that. To connect these two, we are going to make it the third person character, is how we're going to connect those together. And by the way, oh, actually, do we want to do that? Yeah, I'm going to do one more thing before I do that connection. I'm going to go back to my third person map. I'm going to close my BP character metahuman blueprint just for a second because I need to open it back up. I also don't need bridge anymore. I'll close that. Sorry for confusing you. There's one thing I want to do. I want to go to the snake or name of your character blueprint, and I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to right click it. We've already set it up with the LODs. I'm going to duplicate this so I get a second one. And I'm going to name that BP snake third person. And I'll just use 3RD so it's a shorter name. Person, no spaces, capital P, no spaces, enter. So now it's called BP underscore snake third person. Because I might want the original the way it is. Yeah, without changing it. So I'll keep that there without messing with it. I'll make a new one, name it third person so I know what it is. And then I'll double click it and open it again. So now we have it up here. It redocked it automatically if it didn't drag it onto and dock it. And then I want to go to the viewport again. So I know that I'm working with the third person or the metahuman here because I can see it. Okay. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to change that parent class from actor to something else. And you do that in the class settings. So find the tab that says class settings and click on it. Right now we're in class defaults. We want class settings. And the very first thing over here is parent class. And it says actor. Click on the drop down. Type in BP underscore, and you're looking for third person character. Okay, you're looking for third person character. Choose that. It's going to take a second to think about it. And what you're going to see is that it brings in the third person mannequin to this blueprint. And it also changes the outliner on the left that shows the hierarchy for this. So it used to just have root, body, face, beard, and LOD sync. Now it's got all the third person stuff at the top and a character movement at the bottom. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to parent the metahuman's body under the mesh of the third person character. So in that left part where you have this hierarchy, you know it's a hierarchy because things are indented. That means they're child to something. So you have the metahuman is actually root, body, face, and they're all child. We want to change the parent of body to the mesh of the third person character, which is mesh character mesh 0. And you do that by clicking on body with your left mouse button and drag it with your left mouse button on top of mesh. and it will reparent it, the body of the metahuman under the mesh. Also go to the bottom where the root is and click on it and hit delete on your keyboard to delete the root. We don't need the root anymore. You've reparented the metahuman under this third-person character mesh. Make sure you hit compile. And you're going to see that there's an error. And your metahuman disappears. So when you get an error here and it's red, that means that it's not going to actually run this code. It says there's something wrong with it. We can't compile this. And it tells you why. It says this blueprint is not a scene component, therefore target must have a scene, must have a connection. And what that means, and target actually is clickable. So if I click on this, where it says target, it will take me to the blueprint area that's giving me the error. And it's telling me why the error is there. It says it's not a scene component. So there's nothing going into target. And what it needs to go in there is the mesh that we just parented under. So you've got to bring the mesh in. And I'm going to find the mesh here on the left, and I'm going to click with the left mouse button and drag it in, let go of it, and it makes a mesh node. Put it right in front of where target is and connect them one pin to the other. Mesh to target. Now it has a scene component, the mesh, going into this, compile it, and your error goes away. Okay, so it fixes that error. Now we'll go back. Here's where you could straighten this out, by the way. You could highlight those, right-click, alignment, straighten, and it will straighten those. Not really necessary, but you can. Okay, so now I want to go back to my viewport, and I should see my metahumans back. Everything's good. There's a few things to fix, though. One thing is that my metahuman is not lined up with the other third-person character. So find the body of your metahuman and click on it on the left in your scene components. Look on the right in your details where the location and rotation is. You can see there's numbers in there. So originally it was parented underneath the root. And those numbers were the correct numbers for the root. But for this new mesh that it's parented under, those numbers are moving the body up away from that mesh's center. So you just find to the right of the location rotation, the little arrows, and click on them to set them to 0. It just resets those transforms, and it's going to pop it down and rotate it so it's in the correct direction for the mesh. Because it should be sitting right on top of its parent. And so that's 0, 0, 0 in the transforms. Make sure you hit save. Okay, so all of that's looking pretty good. Now what I want to do is I want to go to my blueprint, which should be right next to your components. If you don't see it for some reason, sometimes it's closed. You can look under window and you can turn it on here if it's not checked. If you don't see my blueprint, you can turn it on. But it's right next to my components here. I want to go to that because in the variables of this, there's something called live link retarget. I'm going to open that up. And there's a use live retarget mode. You want to click on that variable. It's a Boolean, but it's not turned on. If you look in the details on the right, at the very bottom, it says use live retarget mode. It's not turned on. You need to turn that on. So just click on that. What that's going to do is it's going to retarget the animations that are on the mannequin to the metahuman. So now it's actually idling in the exact same way that the metahuman's idling. And it's doing what's called a retarget, which means that even though they're not the same size, these two characters, that animation is going to look good. It's resizing the animation for the character size. So even if I had like some really big, tall character, really small character, it would work. Okay, so turn on use live retarget mode. And then what I want to do is I want to get rid of this mesh from the original mannequin. I don't need to see it anymore. It's going to still be there. It's just going to be hidden. So you want to go select the mesh. So go back to components. You're in my blueprint. Go back to components. Click on mesh. And what we want to do is there's a lot of components in the details. There's a lot of parameters there. Click in your search and just look for, type in viz, and you'll find the visible components. Turn off visible so that all you see is your metahuman idling. Last, in this same area, at the very bottom, make sure that you find visibility based tick options. Change it from always tick pose to the first one, always tick pose and refresh bones. Otherwise, it's not going to work. After you do that, compile and save. Okay. I think that's everything. Oh, one more thing. We opened up the third-person game mode blueprint for a reason. There's something we need to change in there. So go back to the BP third-person game mode blueprint. There is a setting there that brings up the the default pawn class. You want to find default pawn class. It's currently using the third-person character. That's why the third-person character comes up when you hit play. You need to change it. Click on that and change it to your metahuman. BP underscore whatever your metahuman's name is, third person. Choose the third person one because that's what we're working on. Okay, and compile and save. Now, if I go back to my level and I hit play, I should see my metahuman standing there. And if I click in the window, I should get, okay. Just a second. Okay. All right. Let me check something. I forgot something. Let's see. We did tick pose and refresh bones. Change the pawn class. Let me go check. Make sure everything took. I know the pawn class took, but let me just check on this guy. Always tick pose and refresh bones. Yep, that's the one I want. Everything looks good. Oh, I know. Yeah, I forgot a big thing. So what's actually making the character move is a whole section in the graph that we didn't copy over to the metahuman. Okay, so go to your BP third person character. We forgot this. It's a really important step. In your BP third person character, go find the event graph and zoom out. There's a whole, use your right mouse button to drag. There's a whole section of stuff there that is for moving the character around, camera input, movement input, jump input, all of that stuff. We didn't copy that over to the metahuman. So zoom out. Drag a selection box around everything. Make sure you get everything. Once you have everything selected, zoom in a little bit and use your control with your control key down. Click with your left mouse button on the very first node in the upper corner, which is the event begin play, and unselect it. We're going to copy everything except that event begin play. So I have all the nodes copied except that. And then I'm going to hold the control key down and click on it with the left mouse button. It will be selected. And then Control C, copy everything. Then go to your BP third person character, or sorry, your metahuman character. Okay, go to your metahuman and find the event graph for that metahuman and click on it. Now, we just want to use this first two nodes here, the event begin play and the hair LOD setup, which we did earlier. Okay, so we're gonna use those. Select them, move them off to the right, zoom out, get away from all this other stuff, and just move this off to the right here. Zoom out a little bit so that you have a lot of space here. And then go and hit Control V and paste down. And just once it's pasted, just hover over it until you get the arrows in all directions and sort of just move it over next to those two first nodes there. All right, so we left that first event begin play out, and we're going to connect it back into what it was connected to before. So, but it's going through the hair LOD setup. So go out of the hair LOD setup and go straight over to where it says cast to player controller and go into that input. Okay, and you can straighten those up if you want to, but I think they look fine there. I'll go ahead and compile that. Save it. Go back over to your third person map. Hit play again. Click in your window and you should actually have camera control now. and hit the W key, and your metahuman should run around. Look at those flowing locks. Hair's moving. You can jump. You can knock these things. Everything's working.
Mine has like the, I did like change the settings to -9, the like character, for the like original character overlaid on top of the human.
You got to go into the visibility of the mesh and turn it off.
Oh,
Make sure that you, let me go ahead and escape out of this. Make sure that you go to your metahuman beep blueprint. In the components, go to the mesh. On the right, type in viz and turn off visible. And you shouldn't see it anymore. Yeah. And when you type in viz, it's going to filter everything that comes up in under viz now. So you got to close that afterwards so you don't have that filter on. All right, so we'll go back to the third person map. Everything looks good. I have a metahuman now as my game character. We're pretty much close to the end of class, so I want to wrap this up. I'm going to make sure I save that. You know, do a file save all, and we will build on this with an HDRI SkyDrop or Skybox next time. What that's going to be is there's some plugins that we can use to create more of a custom world around us rather than just sky. And there is something that I want you guys to look at. It's online. Go look for Blockade Labs. There's a link to it in the syllabus, but type in Blockade Labs, Skybox, AI Skybox, or just Skybox. It should take you there. And you're going to find AI generated 3D world, Skybox. And this is a Skybox generator. It used to be free when it was in testing mode, but now they actually charge you for it. But there is a free trial period where you can get 15 free generations. It's not super expensive. I think it's like $12 a month if you want to, and you could do it monthly, so you could just cancel it after the first month. But if you want unlimited skyboxes and you want all of the different kinds of skyboxes that you can make, which are in this list here. But if you're using the free one, you're limited to the white ones here. But you have to give them your email address and sign up. And then they're going to give you the 15 free ones. And they have watermarks on them. So we will have to remove the watermarks. They're at the top and the bottom. If the way you do it is you just click here, you can see that it says 15, that I have 15 available here. I'm not sure if I'm actually logged in. I am. So I have 15 that I can get. And let's say I wanted to do something with an Arctic theme. So I could think up a prompt that I think is going to give me what I want. Now, I want to have some space, right? A skybox is not good if it's got things in it which are too close to you, because it's supposed to be like beyond where I'm going to actually go. So like mountains and trees and hills and stuff in the distance. It could be a city in the distance, but it still has to be in the distance. If it's too close to me, it's going to ruin the effect, because I want my 3D buildings and everything in my landscape to be close to me. That's what I'm going to actually run on. So it's important that you try to create a prompt that is gonna not only fit your aesthetic, but also not be too closed in on you. So let me type in, let's just put Arctic scene. Let's be more specific. Arctic tundra. Alien ship in distance at night with northern lights, with green northern lights. All right, let's just see what that does. Now we have a prompt. You have to choose what style you want it to be. You know, I think for the metahuman characters, you might want to go somewhat realistic for the megascans of metahumans, but there are some renderers that can make it look more cartoony or drawn. Not really cartoony, but more like drawn. So I have seen some ones that are more like paintings that do look good, and you could use those, especially if they're far in the distance, it's fine. But you do have things like realistic. Sometimes realistic isn't realistic. You have watercolor, claymation. There's a lot of stuff not available here now that it's a paid thing. They're only available if you pay them. But let's just try realistic just for the heck of it to see what comes up. And I'll generate that. There's also some tools in here that we've been using in the other class. Actually, Malia is using, like, you use some of the drawing to actually kind of tell it where to draw things. Like you can actually draw some mountain shapes or something, or do a sketch. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Got a sunset over here. I like that. That's going to bring up some dramatic light. I see some northern lights up there. You can look around in here. Like I can look up and see what these northern lights look like. This is a 360 skybox. And it actually looks pretty good. It's not too close to me. It's got some interesting things. I could probably make some of this geometry inside of Unreal for my landscape. I know I could make that. So I'm actually really liking this one. It's got something over here which looks interesting. It's hard to see. I kind of wanted something. I don't know if anybody's watching Invasion, but I wanted something where there's like some gigantic ship going up to the sky, you know, like huge, but I wasn't clear about that, obviously. But this is not bad. And you can enhance prompts. You can use negative text. There's a lot of stuff in here that's new that honestly I've never used. It's just now in there. But I'm going to go ahead and download this because I think that looks pretty good. So you click download. And then you tell it you have limited options. Actually, you can download as HDRIs if you have a pay plan. I'm gonna convert it to an HDRI because it has to be an HDRI to be a skybox. That means high dynamic range image. And I'll go ahead and use just a JPEG. I don't think I need a PNG for that. I'll just use a JPEG. And when it downloads, I'll go look in my downloads folder, and you're going to see it has a watermark on it across the top and bottom, which I'm going to have to fix. I'm going to have to remove. So that's the other thing about the free plan. You get these watermarks. So it would be really nice, I might get the page land, just to get rid of those watermarks, but we can use the generative fill and other stuff inside of Photoshop to get rid of those watermarks if it's not too important of content. Like if it's just sort of some ground, I can make that, it's gonna be under the ground plane anyway. And if it's in the sky, if it's just sort of generic sky, I can fix that with fill. You know, so that's not gonna be, but if it's like trees, that's gonna be a little harder to fix. If it's like something really important, like a spaceship, I can fix that, unless I just speak impossible. So, this is what I want you to test out and come up with some of backgrounds for your aesthetic using prompts for next Monday. All right, and I want you to, I'll make an assignment where you can upload your skyboxes, and we're going to basically, I'll show you how to go into Photoshop and remove these things. And if you want to pay, if you're really interested in skyboxes and you want to pay the pay plan, you can do that, and you won't have these things to remove. But
Going over, I don't know, is that gonna be on Zoom?
yes, I'm recording it, which I'm gonna stop right now, doing that so that we can get that processing.